In the French and Indian War, future U.S. President George Washington was shot through his coat 4 times, in the hat once, and had 2 horses shot out from under him. A year later, in a letter to his brother John Washington, he wrote these words: "By the all-powerful dispensations of Providence, I have been protected beyond all human probability and expectation, for I had 4 bullets through my coat and 2 horses shot under me, yet escaped unhurt, although death was leveling my companions on every side." Notice he used the capital P for Providence.
God preserved a 23-year-old George Washington for his divine plans. This weekend, there was an assassination attempt on President Donald Trump where he was shot through his right ear.
Take a look at what happened.
Of course, you see there in the video images that probably everyone in the United States, if not the world, have seen. And everyone, a couple of things from my perspective, Micah. First, of course, Trump getting back up, putting his fist in the air and telling the American people that they need to fight. The courage that it takes to do that, to even have the presence of mind to do that. I don't even, where that comes from is deep down inside. That's number one. Number two is the fact that you had all these people there attending the rally, and it's a miracle that not more people were injured. Of course, you think about the fire chief that was killed, and we think of his wife and daughters and his family. But it's amazing that more people, 2 people were in the hospital, but it's amazing that more people weren't injured or hurt. But I know we're going to get into the details of it in this video, and so I don't want to take away from that. But my initial thoughts when I first saw the video was, wow. I mean, it just as simple as that. Mm-hmm. And then as the details started to come out, which we're going to talk about, it was just one of those things where I was very grateful to the Lord for protecting President Trump, and really, hopefully, being able to have this episode, this assassination attempt, be one more thing to help wake up the American people to what is going on around us.
Yeah. And as you stated, the images with Trump with his fist in the air, there are numerous images, not just one, from this event that will be iconic throughout the rest of American history. The image there with Donald Trump with his fist in the air, blood on his face, and the American flag hanging behind him, huddled by Secret Service, will go down in American history as one of the most iconic images. The would-be assassin was 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks, who was a registered Republican, and of course the leftist media and leftists are going crazy over the fact that he was a registered Republican. But what they don't tell you is that back in 2020, 2022, there was a massive push by the Democrats, even in Pennsylvania, to get Democrats to register as Republicans in order to stop Donald Trump from getting the nomination. Right here, the Associated Press wrote that in Pennsylvania, where some Democrats openly encouraged their base to vote for the Republican candidate for governor.
Let's get real for just a second. I don't care if this piece of garbage was registered for the McDonald's Fry of the Month Club. I don't care if he's a registered Republican. I don't care if he's registered at the Gap. I don't care about that. What you need to focus on is that he was a piece of trash, period. I don't care, and you shouldn't care. That's merely an attempt to distract. Whether he intended to be a quote-unquote Republican or not, I highly doubt, based on his donation history, based on videos that are starting to surface online of comments he made. The bottom line is he was a piece of garbage, and I use the term was. All right, moving on. Micah, for those that don't know, that are watching this video, you were a Marine scout sniper for a number of years, and you bring a unique perspective to the videos and to the reactions of the Secret Service. There was a sniper team on the heavily sloped roof that we saw in the videos, but I wanted to ask you a couple questions, serious questions, about the response and various things from your perspective being a sniper. So my first question is real simple. Why didn't the Secret Service sniper shoot the attempted assassin, Mr. Crooks, before he shot at Donald Trump?
The direct answer is I don't know, but let's pontificate about it a little bit. The idea that the snipers were on the roof, I believe they were looking at the shooter for a good at least 42 seconds before the shooter took the shots. And that comes down to SOP, standard operating procedure. And different organizations, different military units have different standard operating procedure. It comes into, were those Secret Service agents on the roof authorized to shoot? Now, I've heard on different programs that they were authorized to shoot without any permission, or I've also heard that they had to get permission. So we don't know as of yet whether or not that was the case. So on my first deployment to Iraq, which was Fallujah, Iraq, we had 5 sniper teams in our platoon. Our code name was Redneck 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so Redneck 1 had been compromised on a mission. Some dude in the street saw them up in the building, and so he got on his phone and made a phone call, and then they came under attack shortly thereafter. So the day after that incident, we had a battalion meeting with our platoon, battalion commander, company commander, and from that point on, they told us that because of what we were snipers in the Marine Corps, they trusted us to make those decisions. When it came down to the quick decisions, you don't have to get on the radio and radio back and ask if you can do this. That's why we were in State Platoon. So that is obviously the case with the Secret Service snipers. They're obviously qualified, and it comes down to were they authorized or not. I remember telling my wife the day of the shooting, I said, I guarantee those guys sitting on the roof looking at the shooter are on the radio right now asking if they can actually take the shot. And, you know, it's unfortunate that the Secret Service has fallen to that. Now, another question that I have gotten asked a lot since the shooting is, was this an easy shot? 150 meters is an easy shot, even for a weapon that was purchased in a store right out of the box, an AR-15. That is an easy shot. I've got a range at my house, 100 up to 500 yards, obviously hundreds of hours worth of shooting. 150 yards is not a hard shot. Now, did he have iron sights? Did he have a scope? I don't know that. Even with iron sights, though, as any Marine would know, every Marine is a rifleman, whether you're a sniper or whether you're administration. And we, well, I guess anymore, we had to shoot at the qualifying range with iron sights. And this is like talking about back in my day. I had to walk to school uphill twice in the snow. Back in my day, in boot camp, we had to qualify with iron sights at 500 yards, which is quite a distance because the front sight post of your AR-15 actually covers the entire target, and you can hardly see what you're shooting at. But of course, now they're shooting with ACOGs. I'll be nice. So they're shooting with ACOGs, so it's a lot easier. But even out of the box, 150 yards is an easy shot. So the question becomes, was this a gross failure by the Secret Service, or was it intentional? And we've got all kinds of people opining both ways.
Unfortunately, what this does is it adds the Secret Service to the list with the CIA and the FBI on the Americans' distrust list. And these are institutions that Americans have placed their faith and trust in for many, many decades. And now we see the Secret Service, the director of the Secret Service, what little she has said has been pretty awful, from sloped buildings being the reason that they didn't have someone stationed on the roof, to not saying anything at all in response, to now refusing to testify before Congress, which that won't last. But it just adds more distrust for institutions that Americans have previously trusted.
The world lacks a serious amount of leaders. I remember my time in the Marine Corps, the different leaders that I had in Fallujah and other places. And what I see in this situation with the Secret Service, with the Department of Justice, with the executive branches, I see a serious lack of taking responsibility. Leaders protect the people under them, and they take responsibility for their failures. You don't put it on the police department up in Pennsylvania. You're the Secret Service. And to say that the police department was in charge of the second closest building to Donald Trump, that's a failure of your duty as the Secret Service. So we are lacking leadership in this situation. Obviously, the head of the Secret Service has said that the buck stops with her, but she's just said that she has done nothing. She hasn't resigned. She hasn't fired anybody. So there is a serious lack of leadership.
Donald Trump now unfortunately joins a list of current and former U.S. presidents who have had assassination attempts against them. If you take a look at this chart right here, you see, of course, Abraham Lincoln. You've got James Garfield, William McKinley, TR, Theodore Roosevelt, JFK, Ronald Reagan, and now, unfortunately, Donald Trump. And as you take a look at this, and you can see the details of the attempts that were made, I saw on the news where they were talking about how this was the first attempt since the one against Ronald Reagan in March of 1981. And I thought, wow, that I had no idea it had really been that long. But of course, our friends in the media, they couldn't stop there with just reporting facts and sharing information. No, it took them about, I timed it, Micah, it was about a half of a nanosecond before they started becoming unhinged and going completely crazy.
This is a story about people's character and people's reaction. In these moments, these split seconds, we have seen the character and reactions of Donald Trump. We've seen the reaction of the Secret Service. We've also seen the reaction of the media. And check out this awesome take by CNN.
Donald Trump and the people around him perceive themselves to be under threat. And that's all that matters. That is not legitimate. That is wrong.
All right, Juliet, it said on the screen that was the voice of Juliet somebody. Juliet, perhaps you don't know the meaning of the word perceive or threat or of, because Donald Trump supporters were literally being shot at. So there is no perception of a threat. There is an actual threat of being murdered. So you either don't understand the English language very well, or you are actively attempting to deceive your viewers. One or the other.
And that comment, as I just said, that comment from CNN, from Juliet or whoever, that comment shows not only CNN's character or lack thereof to say that these people are not under threat in the moment. That's in the moments that happened. That also goes to show the narrative. It reveals the narrative that CNN has been pushing ever since Donald Trump came down the escalator. It shows what they've tried pushing on the American people, that, Donald Trump is not a legitimate president. That's what they said. And so, it just shows the character or lack thereof of the CNN analysts. Now, there have also been a number of predictions. Now, it's a little bit easy to say that a presidential candidate will be assassinated, but there's a few of these that have some meaning to them and importance. So let's take a look at a couple of those.
They have already put him through hell with all these show trials and rigged courts, civil and criminal, and they are going to try to assassinate President Trump. Make no mistake about that. They are going to try to pull out all the stops, and so we've got to pray for President Trump.
So if you begin with criticism, then you go to protest, then you go to impeachment, now you go to indictment, and none of them work, what's next? I mean, graph it out, man. We're speeding toward assassination, obviously, and no one will say that, but I don't know how you can reach that conclusion.
So you see Tucker Carlson, this was sometime past this video, and he was even criticized for it, but at the end of the day, think about what he was talking about, the progression. And where else does the left have to go? They've not been able to, they impeached him, people still stood with him. They have tried civil trials, people still have stood with him. Criminal trials, people still stand with him. It reminds me of a comment that Rush Limbaugh made shortly before he passed away from cancer. He was hosting his radio show, and I don't know if it was a caller or just it was precipitated by a comment, but Rush Limbaugh said that the people that support Donald Trump will never, ever stop supporting Donald Trump. And the reason is because Donald Trump never stopped supporting them. That's just the truth. And at the time, it sounded like a pretty basic comment of political support. But as Rush Limbaugh said, and as we've seen now in the aftermath of this assassination attempt, the support for Donald Trump is not merely, I support this candidate, or I'm going to vote for this person type of support. No, it's much deeper, because there is an ever-increasing number of people that are starting to realize the state that this nation is in, and they know that we have to, as Micah said, we have to have strong leadership that is willing to take action, that is willing to step up and stand out sometimes. And Rush Limbaugh was correct, Tucker Carlson is correct, and you see the aftermath of what Tucker was talking about, because literally the only thing that the unhinged left has is the assassination attempts.
I saw Trump rising up, and then I saw an attempt on his life. this bullet flew by his ear, and it came so close to his head that it busted his eardrum. And I saw he fell to his knees during this time frame, and he started worshiping the Lord. He got radically born again during this time frame. I'm talking, people say he's saved now, but he becomes really on fire for Jesus, for what I saw coming.
Now, this video right here, as you can see on the screen, was posted about 4 months ago. I do believe that what happened on Saturday was divine intervention from God, not in the sense that God moved the bullet or turned Donald Trump's head at the moment, but in the sense that God willed this to happen. God willed that Donald Trump will be wounded in such a way that it wouldn't be detrimental to his health. And for whatever purpose God has this, we as humans, we tend to believe that in a challenge that victory is the outcome. And we know from experience that victory may not always be what God is trying to teach you. Maybe God's trying to teach you a lesson. Maybe God has another purpose. So I'm not saying that because God saved Donald Trump's life or had this as part of his divine plan that Donald Trump is going to win in November. I happen to think that he's going to win in November. I'm not going to say this is God's will. What I'm saying is God has this for a purpose. To wake some people up? Probably. But doesn't necessarily mean that victory is the outcome. Democrat congressmen had months ago introduced House Resolution 8081 that would strip Donald Trump of Secret Service protection. Of course, Donald Trump having to hire his own security may actually not be a bad thing, considering the incompetence of the Secret Service in a number of things that took place on Saturday.
The Secret Service is under fire for its recent push for a more inclusive and diverse workplace, because that's what you should be focused on instead of, protecting the person you're supposed to be, whether it's a presidential candidate, the president of the United States, other dignitaries. That's not what you really need to focus on. We need to make sure that we're inclusive and we're diverse.
Equality of opportunity in the United States, that is a good thing. That is what the United States should seek to promote. Equality of opportunity is that we all have the same opportunities. None of us are put on a pedestal. That's equity. And so when it comes to your heart surgeon, you don't want someone who has been picked because they check a box. You want the best person for the job. When it comes to who's flying your airplanes, you want the person who's the best person for the job, not because, again, they check a box.
Diversity is just part of this agency. And
to expand hiring, they're aiming to have 30% women recruits by 2030, and even allowed YouTube influencer Michelle Carre to train with agents.
But I'm very conscious as I sit in this chair now of making sure that we need to attract diverse candidates and ensure that we are developing and giving opportunities to everybody in our workforce, and particularly women.
No, I've got no problem with women serving in the Secret Service if they're good enough to do the job.
I want to get paid the same as a man, and I think you understand that. So, if you become president, will a woman make the same as a man?
You're going to make the same if you do as good a job. You're going to make the same if you do as good a job, and I happen to be pro-life.
I have no problem with men serving in the Secret Service as long as they're good enough to do the job. If you go back and look at that graphic where it said their goal was to have 30% female recruitment by whatever the year was, that graphic should scare everybody, because what it should say is we would like to have 30% qualified female recruitment, properly trained female recruitment. That's what the focus should be on. Not, as Mike has said earlier, we're just going to check a box. You're a girl, we're going to hire you. You're a guy, we're going to hire you. How about you're qualified? How about you're competent? How about you know what you're doing? Seems to be important for any job, but especially if you're going to be in the Secret Service.
One of the primary duties of the president's personal security detail, former presidents, is that you cover him with your body so that you take the bullets. Notice how this woman, who is quite brave, notice how she doesn't even cover Donald Trump's face as she's carrying him off the stage.
Again, the point is not whether women are in the Secret Service or not. Sure, absolutely, as long as they're qualified, which should be the case for everyone serving in the Secret Service. But there's just certain practicalities, certain realities. For instance, if you look, it was the first day, I believe, of the Republican National Convention when Trump came into the hall that night, and they had replaced all the Secret Service agents with very large, very burly, very kind of serious, mean-looking dudes all around him. Was that to send a statement? No, it's because Donald Trump's over 6 feet tall, and you need people that, are matching his height and his size or are bigger. And they put a report out that said, oh, we've removed all women from his detail. Again, that's not even the point. The point is, make sure that whoever is in the detail for Donald Trump or Joe Biden or anybody else, that they're qualified and can do the job. That's what the focus should be on, not checking a box and meeting some made-up metric of 30% or anything else, but make sure you just have people that can do the job. It doesn't seem that complicated.
On X, Elon Musk posted this. Could be a man or a woman. To be clear, just needs to be large enough to do the job. Someone like Brienne of Tarth would be fine.
Oh, it sounds like he wants to be on Super Freedom Brothers. That's what it sounds like.
Wisely, President Biden and other prominent Democrats expressed their support for Donald Trump after the shooting and their concern for the temperature in the United States of America. And those are all, for the most part, good statements. But that does not excuse the years of things that they've been saying about Donald Trump and his supporters.
He has to be eliminated.
And the donor class can't just sit back on the sidelines and say, oh, well, don't worry, this will all work itself out. They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump.
Maybe Donald Trump will go away. Maybe he'll go to jail. Maybe he will die, not to be too morbid.
And I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Trump is a threat to this nation.
It's an actor dressed to look just like President Donald Trump as he's assassinated on stage. Look as his character is stabbed to death.
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic. MAGA Republicans do not respect the Constitution. They do not believe in the rule of law. They do not recognize the will of the people.
If they vote for Donald Trump in 2024, they're knowingly voting for a fascist. They're voting for a racist.
Let me give you one bottom line. As a former government official, government's going to kill this guy.
You take on the intelligence community, they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you.
I will go and take Trump out tonight. Take him out now.
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
Please, get up in the face of some Congress people.
People will do what they do.
You will pay the price.
This is just a warning to you Trumpers. Be careful. Walk lightly. And for those of you who are soldiers, make them pay.
If you had to be stuck in an elevator with either President Trump, Mike Pence, or Jeff Sessions, who would it be?
Does one of us have to come out alive?
Remember when Kathy Griffin held up a severed head prop of Trump and called it comedy?
This guy hits it on the nose.
You left-wing nut jobs. You can't win on merit, so you gotta do what? Try and kill the man? Really? It's a good thing y'all don't know how to shoot. Well, the only thing you proved is this, that you guys are the ones that are prone to violent actions. Every time you lose, violence. But we're the extremists, right? Last time I checked, when the man you took a shot at today won in 16, y'all burned and rioted. When you don't get your way, you burn and riot. When something happens to one of your felons, you burn and riot. He got indicted 34 times and we didn't do a single bit of looting, rioting, or burning. This is certainly proof that you guys are the violent ones. And if there is anyone capable of local terroristic acts, it's you people.
And here's the bottom line. What his comments just said were based on history, based on facts, based on what has occurred. You have people that have rioted in the streets, blocking fire trucks from getting to burning buildings, ambulances from getting to people that needed medical care. You have had literal cities that have been set on fire because people aren't getting their way with elections or with pieces of legislation. And it's always on one particular side, on the liberal side, on the left side. So this gentleman is absolutely spot on based on the history of what has actually happened. Let's see. President Trump was shot at on Saturday. Someone tried to kill him. Now we're going to put on the screen a list of cities that have been set on fire. We're also going to put a list of riots that are currently underway. We're also going to put a list of people that have burned down buildings all across America. Here's the list. Oh, wait, it's not there. Because we're not petulant grown-up toddlers that when we don't get our way, we start yelling and screaming, putting our hands on our hips, saying we want our way or no way, and then starting setting things on fire. We don't do that. You know why? We're adults. That's why.
Now here's the kind of propaganda that the media wing of the Democrat Party is vomiting out these days.
In Mein Kampf, Hitler wrote, "The Jew," and I'm quoting him here, "poisons the blood of others." Trump has used that line before and other phrases like it that echo Nazi rhetoric.
Now, just a couple of weeks ago, President Biden said, we're going to put a bullseye on Donald Trump. But when you spend years spewing rhetoric that Donald Trump is Hitler, Donald Trump is a threat to democracy, an existential threat to democracy, what do you expect is going to happen to these people on the fringe who have crazy ideas?
Trump derangement syndrome is a real thing. Now, I'll be honest, I used to think that it was just something that you could make fun of or something that was just silly. But no, it's a real thing. If you have any doubts that TDS is real, all you had to do was watch the media's reaction and people's reaction online, whether it was on Twitter or on other forms of social media, to the assassination attempt on Donald Trump.
Nacho Libre is one of my most favorite movies of all time.
Where's your rope, Ignacio?
It was stinky, but beneath the clothes, we find a man. And beneath the man, we find his nucleus.
And I'm sad to report that this week, Jack Black passed up on an opportunity to call out the rhetoric against Donald Trump.
Don't miss Trump next time.
Now, Tenacious D has put their tour on hold, and Jack Black has issued a statement saying that he does not condone the words of his bandmate. He said that he was blindsided by what he saw at the show. I would never condone hate speech or encourage political violence in any form. After much reflection, I no longer feel it is appropriate to continue the Tenacious D tour, and all future creative plans are on hold. I'm grateful to the fans for their support and understanding.
But can you just give a shout out to a guy who just got hit with a bullet and then put his hand up in the air and said, fight, 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 and he put himself out there, but he poked his head out and he put his arm out. And that was courageous. It was courage under fire. And I've called Trump a coward 1,000 times. But he wasn't that night or that day. He was strong and he was brave. And anybody can see that. That's the problem with the Democrats. We have eyes and ears. And they keep trying to gaslight us because they think they control all of mainstream media. And so they could gaslight you no matter what, because mainstream media will just lie to you and pretend that we live in an alternate reality, right? And when the crowd started chanting USA, USA, it made me a little proud.
You said it, Cenk. We do live in an alternate reality when you say this many good things about Donald Trump. But seriously, Cenk, you're spot on, and I appreciate those words. So far, 2024 is turning out to be a dumpster fire.
With kerosene all over it.
Here's to taking our country back from the leftist communists this November with electing Donald Trump to the presidency of the United States. again.
Shouldn't that have been reported? Somebody buys a 20-year-old white guy. I mean, we've seen that many times now. Young white men with guns, and nobody reported that he bought 50 rounds of ammunition.
Really, Joy? Really, 50 rounds? If you buy 50 rounds of ammo, you should be reported in the United States of America. Joy, 50 rounds is like less than a minimum purchase if you want to go for to a range to shoot. Look, I've bought up to 5,000 rounds at one time. This lady lives in a bubble when she thinks that people should be reported for buying 50 rounds.
She doesn't think anybody should own ammunition, period, or a gun, or a knife, or be able to defend their families. She doesn't believe anybody should. So, yes, to her, I'm sure 50 rounds does sound like 5,000 rounds.
Donald Trump has picked J.D. Vance to
Wait a minute, I want to say the other thing. You cut me off.
Well, then I gave you plenty of time.
No, you didn't. You said that I had to let you say the thing about the ammo. Are you going to take what I said earlier?
Keep
I don't remember
talking.
What I said.
This is all going in the video, so keep talking.
What did I say before?
I don't know.
She was saying her stupid stuff, and it was...
we were talking about a ladder.
Well, yeah, but what was it? It was really funny. Even Doodad back there laughed. That's our producer, Doodad. He's great. He's a good guy. But what are you going to go back when you edit it and put the good part in that I said?
Sure.
Okay, fine. You're not going to. You're not going to do it.
So Donald Trump has picked J.D. Vance of Ohio to be his vice presidential running mate. Now, who is J.D. Vance? Well,
all right, let's talk about J.D. Vance. So I had to go find an article to tell me about him because I knew he was a senator from Ohio and that Trump endorsed him. That's all I really knew. So I found this article from the Epic Times, and it had a bunch of things about J.D. Vance so that you could get to know him. Number one, he's 39 years old. Number two, he's a Catholic. He's married to a lady with a very long name that I can't pronounce. He has 3 kids. And now, this apparently is a newer term that I'm not as familiar with, but they consider him a populist conservative because, yes, he's pro-life. Yes, he's pro-Second Amendment, but he's also for people. Well, that's an insulting terminology, a populist conservative. All conservatives are for people. We're for unborn people. We're for elderly people. We're for workers. We're for everybody. We're for families. So that's a little misleading, but he's conservative by his voting record and by the things that he has said in his speeches. He was a Marine Corps Iraq combat veteran. I think the most interesting thing about him is that he's 39 years old. And you say, why is that the most interesting thing? Because that reminded me a lot of when George H.W. Bush named Dan Quayle as his vice president. And you say, what does that have to do with anything? Because that was the first time that at that time, a baby boomer had been named or nominated for nationwide office. And if you remember, the Democrats absolutely savaged Dan Quayle and tore him apart. In part, they did that because they did not want the Republicans to have the first baby boomer in national office. They wanted that to go to Bill Clinton. So we fast forward. This is a generational shift with J.D. Vance. This is a message that the Republican Party and Donald Trump is sending very clearly to anyone who says, well, but Donald Trump, he's 70, how old is he?
79, 80? No, 79 probably.
70. To send a message, Donald Trump's sending a message that, hey, I'm 78, 79 years old, but the next generation of leadership is right here, and we're not messing around about it. And by the way, this is so unprecedented. No, it's not. Eisenhower picked Richard Nixon, I think he was about the same age, to be his vice presidential nominee as well, sending the message and really showing the dichotomy with an older president and a younger vice president.
It was the all-wise Asmongold who said that Donald Trump picked J.D. Vance at 39 years old, that at least somebody in this race is not 80 years old, and, well, that's a valid point. Now, the biggest loser in the pick of J.D. Vance is Ron DeSantis, because now, if J.D. Vance hadn't been picked, Ron DeSantis was the future, and may still be, but J.D. Vance now poses a big challenge to Ron DeSantis' future presidential goals, and so I call Ron DeSantis the biggest loser in this pick.
I thought for a half a second that Ben Carson was really going to get it. In our last video, Micah said, who do you want to get it? And I said, Ben Carson, because I like Ben Carson a lot. And for half a second, I thought he was going to get it, and I was totally wrong. But I agree with you that at the end of the day, politically speaking, Ron DeSantis I mean, he has to just be like, really? Maybe I shouldn't have run for president. Maybe I should have just enjoyed being governor of Florida and winning re-election to that office by a landslide.
Wouldn't be the first time he's been totally wrong, but the first time he's admitted it.
No, we're going to edit that out, though, so don't worry about it. Super Freedom Brothers is growing, and we want to thank you for that. So many people are starting to tell their friends and family members to not watch our videos, and I want to thank those friends and family members for not listening and still watching our videos. We appreciate it very much.
So I did open up my political page from back when I was in politics. That's been shut down for these last few years. I did reopen it up and put the last video on there. So, those people on my political Facebook page, they love me.
Love. And in this day and age, there's such a broad definition of love. So he could mean love or love.
We'll bring you some of their comments.